Okay, so let's now talk about application of product matrices. So applications most often appear in exam 2. Generally, you'll be asked to either construct or interpret the product of matrices. So let's have a go at this one. It's VCAR 2020 paper 2 question 1. And as we're going through, we'll look at the examiner's report as well. I find that stuff fascinating. Okay. The three major shopping centres in a large city are East Mall, Grand Mall, and West Mall are owned by the same company. The total number of shoppers at each of the centres at 1 p.m. on a typical day is shown in matrix V. So here it is. So that means on a typical day at 1 p.m. there are 2,300 people in East Mall, 2,700 people in Grand Mall, 2,200 people in West Mall. Write down the order of matrix V. We need to write down the order of matrix V. So remember, it is rows by columns. So that means I've got one row, I've got 3 columns. That is my answer, everyone, a 1 by 3. Let's see how many kids got this right. We'll come over here. 95% of the state got that right. The answer is 1 by 3. All right, let's come over here. Let's now read the next part. Each of these centers has 3 major shopping areas. So each of these centers has 3 major shopping areas. You have got the food area, you got the clothing area, and you got the merchandise area. The proportion of shoppers in each of these areas at 1 p.m. on a typical day is the same at all 3 centers and is given in matrix P. So here's matrix P. So let's stop for a second and let's really just try to interpret what they've given us. Normally what people get wrong is they just kind of keep reading and don't stop and think, what is this saying to us? Well, what this is saying is that if you go to any of these shopping centers, East Mall, Grand Mall, West Mall, if you go to any of them at 1 p.m. on a typical day, what you're going to find is that 48% of people are going to be at the food area. 27% of people are going to be at a clothing area. And 25% of people are going to be in the merchandise area. Merchandise. Okay, that's what it's saying. So it's important that we understand that. Okay, let's keep reading. Grand Mall's management would like to see 700 shoppers in each merchandise area at 1 p.m. If this were to happen, how many shoppers in total would be at Grand Mall at this time? Again, it's really important that we understand what the question is saying. Notice what it isn't saying is, on a typical day at 1 p.m., how many people are in the merchandise area. That's not what it's saying. It's saying that Grand Mall's management would like to see 700 shoppers in the merchandise area. If this were to happen, how many shoppers in total would be at Grand Mall at this time? So what we're after is how many in total if there are 700 shoppers in the merchandise area. Well, if we know that 25% of people at 1 p.m. are going to be in the merchandise area, what we can do is this. We can say, well, 25% of the total is therefore going to be equal to 700, right? So 25% of how many people are here is going to be equal to 700. That's what we know. That's what the question tells us, and by reading this as well. So if we want to figure out what this is, we now just have to interpret this in terms of maths. 25% is the same as 25 over 100. Of means times. Total is what we're trying to solve, and that's equal to 700. Well, what could we now do to solve this? We could come to our CAS and we could go menu 3-1. Now, instead of writing 25 over 100, we know that's 0.25. We're then multiplying that by x. It's going to be equal to 700, and we want to comma x. We want to find it for x. If we do this, what is our answer going to be? It's going to be 2,800. Therefore, 2,800 people is going to be our answer. So if there are 700 shoppers, in the merchandise area, and we know that that represents 25% of the people, well, that means in total there are 2,800. Now, a quicker way to do this is to say, well, 25% is just a quarter of them, right? 25% is just a quarter of them. So if 700 people represents 1/4, well, then all you really need to do to get your answer is multiplied by 4. 700 times 4 is what? Well, let's come over here. 700 times 4 is 2,800. So you could answer this question pretty quickly if you recognize that. Let's see how many people got this one right. We'll come over here. As you can see, 45% of people got this one correct. The answer is 2,800. Some students simply copied 2,700 from the original matrix. So what did they do? What was this common error? Well, what people did is they said, well, let's come up here. At Grand Mall, there's 2,700 people there at 1 p.m. They did not read the question, and it said, how Grand Mall would like to see 700 shoppers. How many would there have to be in total? They kind of just did it a bit blindly. So don't be one of those people. Make sure to read it carefully. Let's go to the next one.